What's going on, everybody? My name is Harrison, and I'm a member of technical staff working at Anthropic. And my family and friends are just so excited that I don't have to talk to them about agents today, and I get to hang out with people who are thinking about the same kinds of problems I think about on a daily basis. So thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. And specifically, I'm so excited to talk to you all about Claude Managed Agents, which is a new suite of APIs that Anthropic has shipped, and how you can use Vercel's agentic infrastructure to interoperate with your agents. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road. So critically, agents are only useful when they can do things. I think this is probably no surprise to all of you in this room who are building and thinking about optimizing and thinking about finding more and more ways to apply agents to your day-to-day work. This might mean that your agent needs access to read and write files, needs to call APIs, needs to generally just interact with the world around them. And critically, and perhaps most importantly, we have to talk a lot about where the agents are actually executing. So what is Claude Managed Agents? Before we go too deep into talking about execution, I want to give a little bit of a lay of the land on what the actual agentic APIs that we support out of the box are via Anthropic's Managed Agents. It's basically a suite of APIs that make it extremely simple to get up and running agents ASAP. The first step is just to create an agent. This is essentially a list of tools, skills, system prompt, and permissions. I think you're going to see that this is a very similar pattern to a lot of the other talks about agents that you've probably heard today. But then that agent actually needs an environment to run in. Claude especially is extremely good at getting work done when it's given access to a computer. So the environment is the network allow list, the packages that are installed in the container where Claude runs, and generally is just how your agent interacts with the outside world. Then when you've got an agent and an environment, you can kick off a session, which is the agent going out into the world and doing actual, real, useful work. And while all this is happening, you need to be able to stream back what your agent is doing in real time and steer it if it's not doing exactly what you might want it to do. But oftentimes, we hear from our users that that they have to make a tough decision of where to actually run their agents and how to roll their agentic harness. Option one is to go with something like Claude Managed Agents off the shelf, where you hand everything over to Anthropic, and we're responsible for running the agent loop, as well as for actually running the containers that your agent is running on top of. But oftentimes, this doesn't work for all use cases, in which case we've seen users who have decided to roll their entire agentic harness themselves and just integrate with an inference provider like Anthropic's V1 Messages or other inference providers out there. The problem with this is that it's another thing you have to maintain, another thing you have to keep up with. Anytime models come out, you have to find a way to upgrade to those models and eval the whole thing end to end. So we often find that users are spending a lot of time building things that are not differentiated part of their products, but are instead spending time building out this agentic harness. This cost is non-zero. From our users, we hear that it sometimes takes between 6 and 8 weeks just to get live into production. You're having to build out tool dispatch, retries to handle failures. You're having to get the agent context when it needs it and where it needs it. You're building out streaming infrastructure yourself and making it so that your users are able to interact with your agents in real time. On top of all that, you're evaluating the whole thing end to end. And again, spending time building things that don't make your product differentiated. And once all this is done, we're hearing from our users that you might need 20% or more of an engineer to just keep the thing rolling. Model upgrades, generally new tools that are coming out, and just keeping your agents up to date with the latest and greatest. But one of the key insights that we uncovered as we've been building Claude Managed Agents is that we like to think about this entire set of agentic infrastructure as two totally separate components, what we call the brains of the operation, which is the inference provider. It's the agent harness. It's generally just the things that actually execute the brains of your agent. But this is wholly separate from what we call the hands of your agent. So the hands are the agent actually taking action in the real world, running tools, reaching out over a network, making API calls, reading and writing files. And this is a key insight that totally changed the way that we built our own agentic infrastructure. But it also makes things a little bit more easy to componentize if we think about it in these two separate mechanisms. So in Claude Managed Agents, in Claude Managed Agents, using self-hosted sandboxes, which is a new product feature that we have shipped in partnership with Vercel Sandboxes, you're able to hand over the control plane to Anthropic, so we still own the integration with V1 messages and the ability to actually keep up with the latest and greatest agentic harness developments, while you, using your Vercel Sandboxes, can totally own the execution of your agent. So this means that you bring essentially the container and the file system and all of the tools that Claude is able to run within your sandbox. So every bash command and file operation runs in a sandbox that you entirely control, using your network policy, potentially using your own internal services that you potentially want to expose to your sandbox, and generally just you have the entire control over what this sandbox is able to access. So to reiterate, the Anthropic hosting of the agent loop gets you a lot of things out of the box for free. You're given a session abstraction that makes it extremely easy to get up and running with agents taking actions and seeing the durable history of what that agent does when it does it. The tool calls that it makes, generally the inference calls and their outputs, and as well as the just everything that's happening as the agent is going off and cooking. Also, you're able to just quickly drop in new models as they come out, and you can trust that we've evaled our harness against all of the latest and greatest benchmarks that are coming out. Additionally, we provide a set of monitoring as well as webhooks, events that are coming through the event stream that'll tell you exactly what's going on with your agent in real time. So that's the Anthropic side. But let's go a little bit deeper into talking about what it might look like to hand over the sandbox execution to you all via Vercel Sandboxes. Here, we have a hypothetical hospital where it's not necessarily acceptable to give Anthropic access to all information that's sitting within your infrastructure. In this case, we have Claude up top that's running the agent harness, but then in the middle, we have your agent and its sandbox that's basically implies that you're able to execute all tool calls, so all file writes, all file reads, and generally just any actions that Claude is taking inside of your network environment. This is hugely powerful, and it means that you're able to only give Claude exactly what it needs with the security controls around your infrastructure in a way that you feel comfortable with. So for example, if we have patient records that we want to get an anonymized version of to Claude, it's very straightforward for us to use any existing service infrastructure or access policies that we've built in our infra, or in your infra in this case, to expose it to Claude to maybe in this case, ship off billing codes to an insurer without Claude or Anthropic ever having to know what's actually happening in your internal network. This is a really, really powerful way for all of you to use Vercel Sandboxes to totally isolate yourself from Anthropic's infrastructure. In this case, you can think about this environment that's a self-hosted environment. So again, a self-hosted sandbox. You can think of it as a work queue. So Anthropic publishes essentially a work item to you, and then you're able to assign that work to something that's happening in your infrastructure. Essentially, in this case, that would be a Vercel sandbox. So it's a couple-step process. The first is that you create a session using our API surface. Then the second is once work has been created, you claim that work and essentially kick off the tool call on your infrastructure and execute it against whatever it is that you might have on your side that you want Claude to be able to interact with. This is pretty thematic from some of the prior conversations or the prior talks you had, where the agent needs to meet you all where you are, rather than having you push everything you need into some agentic infrastructure in the cloud. Then, when you're ready to go, you can actually execute the tools, which Claude makes the decision to execute the tool, and then you actually provide the response of the tool call. And all this, while it's happening, leaves you with an intermediate file system of what the agent was doing on your file system. Any intermediate files that are created are totally within your sandboxing infrastructure and do not live on a container anywhere in Anthropic's world. But why does Vercel Sandboxes fit this use case so cleanly? Well, it's because Vercel Sandboxes basically solve a lot of the core problems that come with running your own sandboxing fleet. Their sandboxes are ephemeral. They're super fast and snappy to start up, and the network policies are trivial to edit yourselves. On top of that, you don't have a bunch of containers just sitting around burning compute and running up bills that you don't want to pay. So we found that Vercel has been an excellent partner to help us get you more power without having to roll entire sets of infrastructure yourself for running your own sandboxing fleet. So what does this split actually enable? What does splitting the brain and the hands and having you run your own sandboxing fleet actually do for you? And what are our users doing in production? We're really seeing three separate patterns. The first is that it's extremely trivial to spin up sandboxes on a per-user basis and ensure that files are never commingled where they shouldn't be, and particularly for sensitive users, your users can trust you to imply that you are not spreading their data anywhere. On top of that, as I was alluding to before, your agents are now meeting you where you are, and you can bring the agents to the data, expose them private services, private MCP servers, potentially use any of the tools that were even announced today to expose your sandboxes to more information inside your own VPC without having to do any fanciness of exposing things over the public internet in a safe way. On top of that, it's generally just a platform for you to do whatever you want with while still getting the power of Claude Managed Agents Agentic harness. So just to reiterate and really hammer home what this means, we've essentially broken this down into three ownership categories. The first is owned by Anthropic, and this is the agentic harness and the inference layer. You no longer have to fiddle with any specifics of integrating with our inference layer, and you can just rely on our eval harness in order to accomplish what you need to get done ASAP. Then Vercel handles the execution of Claude's tools using their sandboxing layer. And you can focus on the right side on what makes your beer taste better and what makes your product generally differentiated from your competitors in the market. So let's talk through what this actually looks like to get going, because the hope is that it's very straightforward to spin this stuff up. So I was talking about before, the first step is to create what's called a self-hosted environment. This is as opposed to a cloud-hosted environment that would handle the entirety of execution on your behalf. So here we have a couple lines of code. We're creating a Vercel Sandbox. It's configured with the type of self-hosted, indicating that it's using this work queue methodology. Then the second step is using Vercel's awesome APIs to quickly spin up a sandbox. Here we've got a Node 24 sandbox, and we've allowed listed api.anthropic.com, as well as a fictitious internal billing URL that's within our local VPC. Then the last step for getting the sandbox up and running is just quickly running a binary that we provide to you that essentially authenticates with our APIs and enables you to receive work from Anthropic's servers. So that's this ant command down here. And last but not least, spin up a session. From there, you're good to go, you're rolling, you've got a session ready to receive inputs, and boom, anything you want to ask your agent to do, it can just go off and accomplish it using your Vercel self-hosted sandboxes as the compute infrastructure behind the whole thing. So let's see if we can do a quick video showcase of what this actually looks like across a couple of the surfaces that are involved here. So first, I'm going to show off the console that's a Claude surface. In this case, you can see, if I can click and get it playing, excellent. We've created an agent in our console. This agent is an EHR analyzer. It's using Claude Opus 4.8, and it's doing some clinical analysis on our behalf. This is essentially the identity of the agent that's going to be taking action. Then we've also created an environment that is our Vercel self-hosted sandbox. So you can see in the top that I've highlighted. I don't know if it's too small to see. Hopefully you can see. You can see that this is a self-hosted environment, and we've created an environment key that's used to authenticate with Anthropic servers. Then on the right side, there's just a couple of instructions for how to get started to actually point your sandbox with Vercel at this environment. From there, we actually need to get our agent to go off and do something useful. So here, we're back in the Claude console, and we've got the ability to create a session. Again, that durable log of an agent taking action. So here, we're doing some EHR analysis. We're selecting our EHR analyzer agent, selecting our Vercel sandbox, and boom, we're off to the races. We've now got a session ready to receive inputs. So now if we ask our agent to go and do some analysis on EHR records that are totally anonymized, we're able to do so, kicking off a run. And here, what's that? A tool call, where we're running a bash tool. And critically, this bash tool is not running anywhere on Anthropic's infrastructure. This is on your Vercel sandbox. And that's where, again, the self-hosted sandbox piece of this feature comes from. So we hope that this enables you to essentially do whatever you want while still giving Claude the power to request you to run tools on your infrastructure. Last but not least, I want to jump into a very quick demo of what it looks like on the Vercel side. So we've jumped into our portal on Vercel, and you can see here that indeed all of these bash commands that we were just running are executing off of Anthropic's infrastructure and on your Vercel self-hosted sandbox. So how do you get started? We're so pumped to see what all of you are able to build. I'm way less creative than all of you in this room, but we hope that we've built a platform that makes it really easy to build agents that are useful for you while still adhering to any requirements that you feel like your business needs with respect to the data that Claude interacts with. So we've got some docs pages. We've got one from Anthropic, one from Vercel, who has been an incredible, incredible partner as we've released this feature, and then also the announcement that describes a little bit more about self-hosted sandboxes. So if I could leave you with one thing, it's just to remember that in self-hosted sandboxes, Claude is still responsible for running the agent. But in this case, Vercel is the one running the code. Hopefully, we hope that you are all able to go out and build incredible, incredible things and to scale your businesses and to be extremely creative in the process. Thank you all for having me, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come hang out.